This front walk cycle was drawn using a Sharpie pen on paper, and then I scanned it using my cell phone, brought it into Adobe Photoshop, and animated it in Photoshop. So I'm going to be going over the entire workflow with you right now. All right, let me see if I can explain the procedure. I have these worksheets which I created, which are templates. Let me show you what the template looks like. I've taped with painter's tape tracing paper on top of them. And as you can see, I've lined up the tracing paper so it registers exactly with the corner of the page. So these are the characters that I created in the walk cycle, and this is the template that I used. So you can see that the characters are completely my own design. Let me just remove the tape from this so it doesn't inadvertently stick to something I don't want it to. But you can see how I created the template with these mannequins. I made sure they were all the same size as each other so that everything would line up when I animated it. But the characters are very different from the mannequin in that I added eyes, nose, mouth, clothing, and detail. So this is a fashion design walk cycle. He's supposed to be doing the catwalk down the aisle for a fashion design shoot. So this is the original character I created. You can see there's 8 steps in a walk cycle. So this is 1 through 4, and this is 5 through 8. So let me just remove this one. The tape is absolutely necessary so your paper doesn't shift around and you can copy the images accurately, but you have to make very certain that you remove all the tape so it doesn't stick to anything you don't want to, and you got to peel it off carefully so it does not rip your paper. Anyway, I just got this one peeled off. The one up here shouldn't be a major problem. It has a little bit of a reflection though, so I'll see if I can peel that off. It peels off okay. All right, so this is 1 through 4. And you can see this is what the 1 through 4 template looked like. And this is 5 through 8. So let's photograph 1 through 4 first. So what I did was I screen recorded my phone to show you the photographing process. On to the instructions for how to photograph the artwork with a cell phone and get it in the condition that it needs to be in. So if you notice, I'm adjusting my camera so that it's as flat over the artwork as possible and there are the fewest shadows. And now I'm pushing the exposure up so the image is slightly overexposed so that the blacks are black and the whites are white. Then I just rotate it so that the picture is not too crooked. And I'm using the rulers, 1, to line up the paper so that it's not crooked, 2, because I can compare measurements with the 2 photos, but 3, so that I can hold down the edges of the paper flat because the tracing paper is slightly curled. So you're going to see me adjusting it now. It's going to take a minute, so I'll just skip forward past that step. So I finally have my rulers adjusted on there the right way, pretty much. I'm going to, again, tap the screen and push the exposure up so that the whites are white and the blacks are black. I'm going to get rid of as many shadows as possible just by slightly overexposing the picture. You can just see how I push it up. And then I'm going to rotate my camera slightly so that to minimize the crookedness of the image, and I'm snapping the picture. And now I'm going to remove the camera from my my stand so that I can adjust the photo. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop and rotate it. So now I'm cropping it, making it the correct size, rotating it so that it's minimize the crookedness. And then I'm going to mess around with the settings. I'll mess around with the brightness, the contrast, black point, and then I'm going to use the filter Noir. And what I should have when I'm done is a perfectly black and white photo. If there are too many gray areas in the background, because your shadow was over the artwork, you may need to take the photo a second time. But as you can see, I was able to crop it and rotate it. I was able to do that with both pictures. And then I used the noir filter. And if I had any more grays, I would change the brightness, change the exposure, change the contrast, etc., until the picture looked just right to me. If you're losing any of the detail of the black lines, that's also not good, because you're going to need those black lines later when you magic wand out the background. So now I'm going to just do the exact same process. I'll just speed this up. As I crop and rotate my second picture, the process should be identical. When you're done cropping and rotating and adjusting the filter and adjusting the contrast, exposure, etc., and putting it in the noir filter, and you have as close an approximation as you can get to a black and white scan, then you are going to email the images to yourself. Please email them to yourself. Do not upload them directly to Google Drive or use any other method. If you email them to yourself, they will convert from HEIC photos, which are a very compressed form of photo that only Apple uses, to JPEGs, which is exactly what we need. So you're going to see me emailing the images to myself, and I'm going to be very careful to label the emails 1 through 4 and 5 through 8 so I don't get confused once I get the artwork on my computer. And you'll be able to see also when I send the email that, so I send them in 2 separate emails so that I don't get confused as to what 1 through 4 is and what 5 through 8 is. And I also make sure that when I email them, I'm emailing them full size to myself. That's going to give me a choice: small, medium, large, or full size. So on the iPhone, and you always pick full size. And that's how you prepare your photos for animation. I'm now going to switch to screen recording on my computer to show you the rest of the procedure. Okay, so this is 1 through 4. So let's do this one first. I'm going to download it, and then I'm going to right click show in folder, and then I'm going to right click rename it. And I'm going to name it 1, 2, 4 male model walk cycle. Okay, so that's 1 to 4. And now let me go back to my email. Let's see. And let's find 5 through 8 and do the same thing. Download, show in folder, rename 5 to 8. Okay. So now that I've renamed them, I'm going to open 1 through 4 in Photoshop. Okay, so now I'm going to unlock the background, and I'm going to magic wand out the background. Now, you can see the crawling ants are inside of this one and this one, so I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to figure out why. There must be a gap. So I'm going to just use my magnifying glass, and I'm going to zoom in, and I can see where the gap is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the pen from white to black, and I'm going to use the brush tool. And you can, 5 or 6 pixels is probably now. I'm going to change it to 5 pixels. You'll see the difference. I think that's good. 5 pixels. And let me just click here and hold the shift key and click there, and that'll close any gaps. Here's another gap. Let me just see if there's any more gaps. There's another gap. It took me forever to fill in all the gaps, so I'm just going to fast forward through that process so you get the idea. The smartest thing you can do is, before you scan your document or photograph it, is to just go through it with a Sharpie and close all the gaps that way, because it'll save you a lot of time when you do it instead of having to do that in Photoshop. It feels almost like a detective work to do it in Photoshop. Animate. And I think that's it. So let's see. I'm going to just zoom out, and you'll be able to see, if when you use the magic wand, if the crawling ants are on the inside of the figures. So let me just magic wand, and you can see that in each one, the crawling ants are on the outside of the figure. There's only a couple little gaps where I do want to select. So I'm going to hit the shift key, which allows me to add to a selection. And I'm going to add the gap inside here, the gap inside here, the gap inside here. With the shift key held down, it adds to the selection. If you don't hold the shift key down, it will replace one selection with another selection. So I keep holding that shift key as I select inside the arms. Everything else looks fine. And because I've unlocked the background, if I hit the backspace key, the entire background will disappear. So this is 1 through 4. So now I'm going to start out by changing this from layer 0 to layer 1. And you'll see why in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rectangular marquee, and I'm going to take 2, 3, and 4, select them, and hit edit. I've got to make sure I'm in the right layer. There I go. I'm in the layer. I've selected them, and now I'm going to hit edit, cut, and now I'm going to hit edit, paste, and they're back, but now it's called layer 2. So now I'm going to just cut out 3 and 4 with my rectangular marquee, and I'll do edit, cut, edit, paste, and now it's called layer 3. And now I'm going to take that last little guy, cut him out, edit, cut, edit, paste, and now I have each guy in layers 1 through 4. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide all the layers, and I'm going to take this guy and move him to the middle. And now I'm going to take layer 2, and you're going to see that layer 2 is quite a bit smaller than layer 1. I don't know why that happened, whether it was in the photograph or the original drawing, but I need to fix the size. So edit, transform, scale, and I'm just going to pull him by the corner until they are the same size. And I think that's not bad. It looks like they're pretty much the same size. The hats line up. Everything lines up. The feet line up. Maybe a little bigger. There we go. Okay, good enough. And now I'm going to take layer 3 and put that on top and see if that's about the same size. Looks a little small. Edit, transform, scale. There we go, nice and even. And now layer 4. Again, layer 4 looks a lot smaller. Edit, transform, scale. I don't know if this happened because the photo got distorted or because my drawings were uneven. It does not really matter. There we go. Pretty much even. Now, I'm going to open 5 through 8. So File, Open, 5 to 8. And now I'm going to unlock it and magic wand out the background. And I'm looking at this guy. It looks like there's crawling ants inside his legs, this guy as well. So again, 1 and 2 are the issues. So let me just select, deselect. And let me see by zooming in what the problems are. I know it's something down in the pants. Let's see. Oh, there's a gap. Okay, paintbrush. Let's see where else. Just gonna follow along the outside edge. Ah, there's another gap. I'm fast forwarding through this part because it took me forever to find all the gaps. As soon as I thought I found one, as soon as I thought I found the last one, I would go back and delete the background, and there were more. And that happened over and over again. In figures 3 and 4, it was the hat. In one of them, it was the arm. In one of them, it was the pants. It was crazy. So I'm not only fast forwarding through this part, but I'm actually cutting some parts out just to get to the next step. But you get the idea. The best thing to do is to close all the gaps before you scan the document. In the long run, it will save you a lot of computer work. I finally got it right, and this is me just magic wanding out the gaps inside the arms and finally got it right at this point. Okay, now let me just zoom out and see what the deal is with this. Okay, that took quite a long time. Now, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take number 1. I'm going to do edit, cut, and I'm going to go here to 1 to 4, and I'm going to do edit, paste. Now, let's just go here, and you can see this one is too big. Edit, transform, scale, and let's make it the right size. Nothing is going to be the correct size coming in from the other file because the photograph itself was probably not the exact same size. So let's see. Just want to make sure that it's roughly the same size. And I think that's okay. And now we'll go back to here and cut, go back to here and edit, paste. Just two more. Edit, cut, edit, paste. Expect to transform, edit, transform, scale the sizing of every single one of these as they come in. But the nice thing is, as you paste them in, the layers get named the correct layer. So look at the layer numbers. Okay. And the last one, edit, cut. And now we're going to close 5 through 8. And we're going to ask if it wants to save, and we say no because it's just an empty document at this point. And we're going to hit edit, paste, edit, transform, scale. Okay, now everything is stacked and everything is about the right size. Now let's see if it animates properly. So we're going to go here to, first of all, I'm going to save this. Instead of 1 to 4 male walk cycle, I'm going to save it as, save on your computer, male model walk cycle, and I'm going to call it a stack. So stack. Okay. Save. Male model walk cycle stack, and it's a Photoshop document, which means it has all the layers intact. It's a PSD. So create frame animation, and now we're going to make frames from layers, and now we're going to just hold the shift key and we're going to change it to 0.2 seconds, and we're going to just play it and see if it looks good. In order to see the thing for make frame animation, you have to go to the top and click window and check off timeline, and that'll make the timeline visible. And then you'll be able to make frame animation. I think the default window at the bottom on the timeline is create video timeline, and right next to it there's a little drop down menu. So you have to click on the drop down menu and switch it from create video timeline to create frame animation, and then just click in the middle of the words where it says create frame animation, and the single frame will appear. And then you go to the lines, the little lines on the right hand side, and you click on that, a pop-up window appears, and one of the choices is make frames from layers. This looks good. I'm gonna just take all these frames, I'm gonna hit the shift key 1 through 8, and I'm gonna do this plus, which copies and pastes them, and then plus again, and then plus again. So now it's got 32 frames. Let's just do plus again, and now it should have about 40 frames, and let's do plus again. Now it's got 48 frames. So now it should duplicate nicely, and now I'm going to do file, export, and I'm going to do render video. Now, it's got a frame rate of 12 frames per second, which I think is good. 1280 by 1080, so it's about the dimensions of a YouTube video. And now I'm going to render. So pay attention to where it's being exported to. In my case, it was exported to my desktop. And there we go. It's on the desktop, male model walk cycle stack. So here we go. I'm pretty happy with the end result. I could do some tweaks on the hat and the face a little bit to make it a little more consistent, but overall the walk cycle looks pretty clean. And my next step after rendering this video would be to play around with it in Adobe Animate, but that's another tutorial for another day. This is the Helpful Art Teacher. Happy animating.